Hello, hello, hello. How is everyone? I am very excited to be here today. I am Alicia Johnson, the creator of the 1212 community, and we are live. We are live for our very first Sanity session. These sessions are being provided to help people to get through life one week at a time, one scenario at a time, one event at a time from a spiritual, mental, and physical perspective. And this is my contribution to society. This is my contribution to the assignment that God has given me. This is my work to do. And so I am excited about doing it. I am excited about being here. Welcome once again. Welcome, 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 and share this out. Share this out to people. The more, the merrier. The more scenarios we have to go through, the more exciting this work will be. And so, with that being said, how is your Mother's Day going? Happy Mother's Day to all of the mothers out here. Happy Mother's Day to all of the soon to be mothers, spiritually, mentally, and physically. Just happy Mother's Day to everyone. So I am very excited about that. So if you are tuning in and watching, this is kind of new to me because I'm trying to do the YouTube thing and stream it out. So let me know if you are able to hear me, able to see me, able to do, all of the things so that I can make sure that we have a strong connection here. So I am trying to make sure that the people that want to be on here can see it and know that we are live now. So we are here for our very first Sanity session. So Sanity sessions are set up to help everyone who chooses to learn how to move through life in a very, how can I put it, graceful way, to move through life in a way that is beneficial to everyone involved. Everything that you do, everything that happens, everything that you need to accomplish involves many people, spiritually, mentally, and physically. And so when you begin to understand this, when you begin to understand the process, then you will begin to understand that nothing is arbitrary in God's economy. Absolutely nothing. And so you begin to look at life differently. And so motherhood is no different. Being a mother is no different. So we're going to start our topic for Sanity sessions with motherhood, with parenting, because being a mama can be crazy at times. Being a parent can be probably one of the most difficult assignments you will ever have if you have been designated to be a parent. But be of good cheer, because all things work together. All things work together. All things are happening in a way that they need to happen. So don't be upset as it relates to being a mother, motherhood, and all of those things. I've been doing this work as it relates to journaling, helping people bridge the gap between heaven and earth, moving through the process spiritually, mentally, and physically for quite some time. And in that, I have run across so many different scenarios, so many different how can I put it? So many different variations of motherhood, life, parenting, you name it. I've heard of it, dealt with it, help people walk through it. And so today is just an extension of that. But there are people that have varying emotions as it relates to Mother's Day, especially Mother's Day. Like this day for some people, it's like one of the best days ever. Oh my gosh, it's Mother's Day. My children love me. And there's some people that are pretty sad on today. Maybe their mothers have transitioned, or maybe they have not been the mother that they wanted to be. Maybe they are dealing with abandonment issues. Honey, there are a myriad of emotions that run through not only this holiday, but all of the holidays because everyone is at a different place. But my responsibility as it relates to helping people to move through this work is to begin to understand spiritually, mentally, and physically the process. And we're taking motherhood and that topic today and moving ourselves through that process. And one of the things that is very important to keep in mind is that on earth as it is in heaven, for everything in the natural, there's a parallel and corresponding occurrence in the supernatural. And so on earth, certain things have happened so that you can understand what heaven is really saying, but it takes a trained ear, a trained eye. It takes spiritual maturation to move you through that process. And once you learn to calibrate your hearing to heaven and your seeing to heaven and your actions to heaven, you start to move through differently. And this is what this work is about, helping you to move through life at the highest level available to you. And so, what better way to start understanding the highest level that is available to you is if you are a mother. I've said it, I've heard other people say it. I have, I'm sure my parents have probably said it. We say these things like, I've raised these children. I have, like 3 or 4 children, and they're all so different. Like I've raised them all. This one acts this way, this one acts this way, this one acts that way. So why is it that, parents feel that just because the household is the same, or, you assume that the household is the same, that all of your children should act accordingly? And this is where I was at some point in my parenting, at some point in my process, is that I was, confused simply because why aren't they acting the same? What's the difference here? And a lot of times we get into these scenarios and we get into these, how can I put it, these thought processes, and we miss the opportunity to really understand what's going on. And in my prayer and meditation time, it was so powerful when God so lovingly said to me and showed me that my children chose me. My children chose me. Your children choose you. God chooses you to be a vessel for these children. And so, as much as we want to believe that we control, like much of our lives, we do not control the children that we bring into the world. We do not control that. And when God began to help me to settle into that, it began to make a whole lot of sense, in the sense that I was already here on earth. I was already here on earth when my children, um, when I became the vessel for my children to get here. And because you're here on earth, you have a tendency to drift away from your spiritual center. You have a tendency to drift away from the truth of who God has created you to be. And because of that, you can forget a lot of times what it is that heaven has given you to do. And when you forget what heaven has given you to do, then you begin to move into a place where it is, how can I put it? You can seem to be ungrateful for the things that happen. You can seem to be um, kind of nonchalant about the things that are happening, and you can miss the opportunity to really embrace the assignment that God has given you. And so once I began to lean into understanding that my children chose me, it became very humbling because it's a beautiful thing to be chosen. And so when you start to look at motherhood from the perspective of being chosen, then you have to understand that there are certain reasons why you were chosen. And we have tendencies, we label our children, we label them good, bad, smart, not so smart, average student, above average student. And as soon as they get here and they start to grow, we start to put them into different buckets and different categories. And because of those buckets and because of those categories, we have a tendency to minimize the true reason that they have come here. They have come here just like we have come here, to learn different lessons, to learn about this physical life, to learn about their spiritual existence. And when you start to look at motherhood from that perspective, then you have to how do you, everyone here, if you are here on earth, you have a mother. You have a mother. And because of that, you have to, and there's some people that are angry with their parents. There are people that haven't spoken to their parents in years. And prayerfully, after, this session today, you'll start to look at these things differently, in the sense that your parents have done the base level. They have done what they have been required to do spiritually. And what that looks like is that there's a spiritual component to your birth, a mental component to your birth, and a physical component to your birth. And by virtue of the fact that you are here, then your parents fulfilled the spiritual component of your birth. Spiritually, they agreed and connected to your request to come here to earth through their channel, like through their vessel, through their being. And you and your parents and God had an agreement before you even got here. And because of that agreement, everyone involved in that process needs to learn how to honor that assignment. And it looks different for everybody. It looks different for everyone. And this is why it is so important that you understand and gain great sanity, if you will, around any issues that you may have with your parents, with your children, with your parental figures, whatever it is. It behooves you greatly to make peace with these areas of your life so that you can begin to rise higher and begin to understand more of what it is that heaven needs you to do. There are many of us who are restricting and limiting our spiritual growth and our spiritual maturation because we have so much unforgiveness, so much anger, so many grievances as it relates to our parenting, that we are not able to rise as high as we could, because you can only rise as high as you allow someone else to go. And so it's days like this, Mother's Day and Father's Day and holidays, where the world puts a major focus on it. This is a great opportunity for you to really settle into where you are in this process. And if heaven is allowing you this opportunity to set things straight. And major holidays, and this is one of the things that I consistently teach and understand, is that even though the world is really perverted, like there are a lot of things in the world that are just like, oh my God, what is going on here? This is crazy. The world is actually very spiritual. The world is very spiritual. And when you learn how to tap into that, you'll begin to see that the world is actually designed in a way to support you on your journey. And I often think about things that are like major holidays, things that where the world requires you to focus on a certain area. That is almost like heaven and earth coming together to let you know that this is something that you really need to focus on, you really need to address. And if it hits you a certain way spiritually, if it hits you a certain way mentally, if it hits you a certain way physically, then that's an indicator that that is something that needs to be considered. And Mother's Day can be a huge trigger for a lot of people simply because of the way that, their childhoods may have evolved, or their upbringing may have not been ideal. But every year, heaven and the world gives you an opportunity to say that this is something that you need to really address. And how do you address it? How do you address any ill feelings or any um, emotions that are stifling you? And so, the first thing that you want to do is to understand, first of all, I don't care what your parents were like, I don't care what scenario you were born into, you have to look at it from the perspective that you came from heaven to earth and your parents were already here. Your parents were already here. And so, because your parents were already here, they we if you're already here, then you have already lost somewhat of that connection from heaven, because by the time you're able to bear children and become a mother or a father, you have been so indoctrinated into the program, if you will, that a lot of times you have separated or been separated from your spiritual connection so long that you do not even possess the power, if you will, to spiritually choose what your children are going to be like. So you don't even have that power. You don't even have that. And a lot of times, how many times have you heard, and I've even said to myself, I don't even know where this child came from. Like, I was not trying for a baby. I don't even know. This is insane. I don't even check that test again. Is this right? Are you serious? And so that gives you a clue that something greater has to be at play in order for you to even be able to be considered a vessel for another human. And so that means that the onus is on something greater than you. Like, this is bigger than you. And this is where your children come in. This is where you have to start to look at things from a different perspective. And that perspective is, God, why was I chosen? Why was I chosen to be a vessel for this child? And so this is the Alicia Johnson Always Journal interpretation of this, but I always imagine God and the baby, God and the human that is going to be, introduced into the world through you. I imagine that there is a conference, like there is great planning in heaven before this embryo, before this new life is implanted in your womb. This process involves the book of life, like your life. Everything that is going to happen to you has already been written. And I truly believe that children and God and heaven, everybody is in air quote cahoots, if you will, to get you here on earth in alignment with the perfect scenarios for your ultimate life assignment. And so before you even come here to earth, I truly believe that there is a run through of all of the things that you have agreed upon on earth as it is in heaven. For everything in the natural, there's a parallel and corresponding occurrence in the supernatural. Here on earth, people are big on checklists. People are big on, making plans. People are big on so many things. And so, with that being said, heaven can't be much different. Heaven can't be much different. And so, I truly believe that heaven goes with you like through this journey before you even come to earth. And based on the requirements of your life, heaven picks the exact parents that you're going to need in order to fulfill the assignment that you have. You're going to need to be this stature. You're going to need to be this type of person. You're going to need to have this type of personality. You're going to need to have all of these things that need to be checked off. And once heaven finds a suitable match, the perfect match for your life's assignment, then heaven puts your parents together regardless. Like your parents are put together, and you can tell that this is kind of how heaven works because when you hear about the strange ways that your parents got together and how you came here to earth, it's funny. It's funny because you know that heaven had to orchestrate the whole thing, good, bad, or indifferent. And this is why we can no longer, as you move through the process and rise higher spiritually, you can no longer label things good nor bad because at whatever point in the process you're attempting to label things good nor bad, then that helps me to understand that you haven't gone deep enough into the work because no labels can be applied to God's work. And you won't really understand, like, you have to have so much life behind you that you can start to understand and see that there really are no mistakes. If that hadn't happened, then this wouldn't have happened. If this wouldn't have happened, then that wouldn't have happened. And so it all works together. And so I have been privileged, if you will, to be involved with a lot of different people in different scenarios. And people's entrance stories are very amazing to me. And your mothers are pivotal parts of that. This is why I think that all parents should be celebrated, whether they are how can you say your parents should be celebrated because they fulfilled the spiritual aspect of the work. They fulfilled the spiritual, whether or not they connected mentally, and they had to fulfill the spiritual aspect of it. They actually had to fulfill all three aspects of it. However, how far they went into the process, that's a whole nother story. But by virtue of the fact that you are here, by virtue of the fact that you are here means that you had to agree spiritually that, okay, all right, use me, Lord. However, you may not have consciously agreed to it, but on a higher plane, on a cosmic level, you and God and your child agreed to it. Mentally, you had to connect to it because mentally you had to say, you know what? Whoo, this is tough, but I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. And physically, you had to allow this baby to pass through. So you had to pass that test spiritually, mentally, and physically for the children to get here. And so for that, in and of itself, for that and that alone, rejoice, rejoice, be excited about that. Because there are people, and unfortunately, in my younger years, there are people. I mean, I'm old now. At this point, I don't even care. I don't care what people think about me. I don't care. I have no skeletons in my closet anymore. I have no bones in my closet. So there ain't nothing that you can be like, oh my God. So there are people who are not equipped, if you will, to fulfill that assignment spiritually, who are equipped to fulfill that assignment mentally or physically, because you have abortions. Like, you spiritually, God has chosen you. Like, you have been chosen to carry this child through. And then it's like, oh no, oh God, no, I can't do it. And so God has also accounted for that as well. And the reason I bring things up like abortion and things like that is that heaven knows. Like, heaven knows. Like, God knows that, for example, for the child that wanted to be to come, to travel through you and your significant other to get here, it's almost like it's when you start to think of it from a higher perspective, it's almost like a lot of times plans are canceled, if you will, so you can rethink the process, so you can rethink things, so that things can be reevaluated. So there are no mistakes. There are no mistakes. And so when you start to think about things like abortion and miscarriages and people that, wanted to be parents and couldn't be parents, that's, you have to learn how to look at those things from the highest perspective available. I've had so many people, come to me, and it's sad, it's unfortunate in the sense that, a lot of people want to be parents, and sometimes that's just not the process at the moment. And, by the time we're done and we look at it from a higher perspective, you're able to deal with it. But one of the things, like, people will come to me and people have miscarriages, and miscarriages are like, I consider miscarriages like spiritual abortions. Like, it's whatever reason the process isn't being completed. That's a whole nother conversation. But to lighten the load of the process, when you start to think about these things from the highest perspective available, you have to start to think from the perspective on earth as it is in heaven. For everything in the natural, there's a parallel and corresponding occurrence in the supernatural. And I like to look at it from the perspective that that infant, that baby, before it gets here to earth, it probably started to read the fine print like really good. Like, a lot of times here on earth, we miss the fine print and we just sign stuff and we sign up for things, and we don't realize it until after the fact. Well, I totally, this is the Alicia Johnson, once again, always journal perspective. But while the baby is in utero, while the baby is developing, I just feel that the baby has the opportunity to really think about what's going on here. Like, really think about, let me see that contract one more again. Let me look at this life assignment one more time. Wait a minute. I missed page 542. I didn't even see that. Wait, what? They gonna do what? And then that's gonna what? Eject, 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 eject. And the little baby hits the eject button and it's like, I don't want to be here for that. And so this is why when you start to look at life from a higher perspective, you begin to understand that everything has a right to exist or not exist. And so motherhood, when you start to think about it from the perspective that everyone involved had a choice. Everyone involved had a choice. You have a choice to carry out the assignment. You have a choice to see that assignment through to the end. You have a choice to, there's so many variables in the process, but when you start to understand motherhood and being a parent from a higher perspective, you've got to realize that if you continue to operate at the lowest level, it's going to make you crazy. It is going to make you crazy because you're going to take on more responsibility than you should. You're going to miss a lot of the opportunities that you do have to thrive and to rise higher. And you have to be able to understand what is yours to do, what is heaven's to do, and what is the other person's part to play and to do in that. And that is what motherhood, and we'll talk about the father's responsibility maybe on Father's Day. I'm not sure how that's going to fall, but mothers today, no matter where you are in the process, rejoice. Rejoice because, first of all, your child chose you. You didn't choose your child. Your child chose you. And for those people that have parents that were not there or available to take care of them through the entire journey, and other people had to step in and play those roles, then rejoice there too. Because God has seen fit to allow you to be a part of the process. And so mothering and being a parent is a very robust and a very detailed encounter. And so everyone who has served in the capacity of a mother, people who have done motherly and parental things, if you have even if you feel that you have failed as a mother, baby, you got them here. Okay, you got them here. That was the biggest hurdle of them all. And whatever happens after that, that's part of the process that you work out on this life's journey. There are some very powerful stories that help to solidify the fact that your children choose you. One person that I know, this is so powerful, and you've probably heard stories like this as well, where um and as your parents get older, as you get older, like you get to hear more of the stories, you get to hear more of how things happen. And I know one story was so powerful. This person had a problem with their, like they had problems growing up and things like that. And what she came to find out is that her mother actually tried to have a full on abortion, like get rid of her. And um, it was unsuccessful. And they knew that after that process that, her mom had gone through everything, and she just knew that, she could go on with her life. But the 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 little baby was hiding up in there. Like the baby did not get aborted. And that was a surprise. Imagine the surprise that you think that you have completed something, but God had other plans. So that is a huge indicator that that baby and God chose you versus you choosing anything, because you didn't even want to be a part of the process. You didn't even want to choose that. So that should make you even more excited to know that out of all of that, this baby is still here. Like, let me cool my heels for a minute and let me really reflect on this, because this is powerful. So, as you're going through this and you're thinking about your journey to motherhood and what it took for you to get here, it's nothing short of a miracle. Do you know how many, like, the unique scenarios that you have to meet in order to fulfill someone else's life's plan? So imagine being in heaven as you're planning your return back here to earth. You're planning your return to earth. You're planning your arrival to earth, if you will. And you have I need to have this personality. God, how tall do you think I need to be? What's my stature? Like, what race do I need to be? What intellect do I need to have? What income do I need to have? Like, all of these things are considerations that heaven needs to make for you before an agreement is before an agreement is even sealed, before an agreement is even completed. And in order for those qualifications to be met, you have to be living a certain life here on earth for heaven to even find you. And so there are people that are coming to earth to experience different things. Like, God, I want to learn more about uh, overcoming abandonment. And heaven, your angels, everybody gets to work. Okay, overcoming abandonment. So, in order to overcome abandonment, then that means that this person has to be abandoned. Okay, so this rules out all of these people over here because they have a stable home, they have steady income, they are this, they are that. They're going to be healthy up until this age. Now, they're totally disqualified from this process. So, heaven is sifting through. And heaven is saying, okay, your lesson, the assignment, the thing that you want to learn is all about abandonment. So you have to understand that in order to understand abandonment, abandonment is a very tragic occurrence. So that means in order for you to be abandoned, the people, the family that heaven allows you to enter into is going to have to fulfill these requirements. If you say that, God, I want to understand more about charity, I want to understand more about being not materialistic, I want to learn more about this, then heaven is going to have to line you up with a family that can provide you all of these things so that you can understand more about the material plane. And so, as you are celebrating, I know some people on here like, this is not what I was expecting for Mother's Day, but I want y'all to have a different perspective. So, as you are checking your heart today, as you are embracing Mother's Day, as you are embracing, because as I said before, there's some people on Mother's Day, they real salty. They real salty. They mad with their mamas. They mad with, how, if they're multiple siblings, they don't treat me the same way that they treat them. So today is your day. Today is your day to take responsibility, to take full responsibility for choosing the parents that you chose. Yes, I mean, you choosing the parents that you chose. And thank them for agreeing to your shenanigans. Thank them for agreeing to be a part of the plan. And the beautiful part about looking at things from a higher perspective, from a spiritual perspective, is that it helps you to understand that there's no competition. There is absolutely no competition in God's economy. So you can no longer compare your life's journey to anyone else's life's journey because we have come here to accomplish different things. And this is one of the things like because our household, it's a spirit-led household, and we are, God moves the process for us. And at one point in time, our children, oh, I wish I had been born to a different family. I wish, and then that stuff can get to you as a parent because you like, well, dang, well, maybe, yeah, maybe. And then we start to think about it. It don't even make sense. They wouldn't even be who they were if they weren't yours. So you wouldn't even know that you were here if you were somebody else. You know what I'm saying? Well, that scientifically, the mother and the father that you had made you who you are. Okay, the vessel that you came, the vehicle that you came through is the vehicle that you came through. So you would not be you. You would have no remembrance of you. So saying stuff like that don't even make sense. But as a parent, you start to feel triggered by that. You start to even trying to rationalize that. Well, yeah, maybe if they have been born in that house, but they wouldn't be them. They wouldn't be them. So that was funny to me. But then when I started to think about it and God really started, because I started to feel real bad as a parent, like, oh, maybe I'm not doing my best. Maybe I'm not the best parent for them. Maybe I'm not. That was some fraggle naggle bull. Okay. When God really started to deal with me, and we haven't had this argument since. We haven't had these arguments since. Y'all chose us. So if anybody should be mad, you should be mad at yourself. Because you knew what you were getting into. You knew who we were before we even knew who you were. You knew who we were. You chose us. And so, as mothers today, for anybody who's going through and their children are throwing up in their face, oh, you weren't this, you weren't that, you weren't this, that's a little fuel for you in a good way. Don't be using it in anger. This is to help bring sanity to this scenario. Just quite simply say that you chose us, sweetheart. You chose me and you chose your father, because prior to you getting here, we didn't even know you existed, but you knew we were here. You knew we were here because you came from heaven to earth. Like, God allowed you to travel through our reproductive system. Like, you had to get on this reproductive superhighway. Like, you had to get off the exit ramp and come here. You had to do all of those things. So now it's on you. And be excited that spiritually I accepted the assignment. I agreed to it. Whether or not I've turned out to be the best parent by comparison is irrelevant, because I am the parent that you needed for this journey. And it's so humbling when you start to look at life from that perspective, because I've had some beautiful people cross my path. And this one young lady, her mom had her at a very young age. And sometimes I would talk to her and she'd be like, let me go over here and help my mother do this. And literally, she was her mother's mother. She was the mother. And I asked her one day, I said, don't that bother you? Like, your mom is more of a child than you are. Like, you should be the child. She's like, that's just the role we agreed to play. Like, that's just, I'm here to be. She's like, my mom was only like 13 or 14 when she had me. So she was young. And she didn't have the opportunity to understand. And now that's a very mature way to approach it. And she's one of the most loving souls you ever want to meet. And her mom is blessed to have her. And so obviously before she came to earth, she had an agreement that I'm going to have to be a mother to my mother. But that's cool, because that's what I want to learn. I want to learn how to be compassionate. I want to learn whatever things you're here to learn. And so today is the day that you take the opportunity to, if you have a great relationship with your parents, with your mother, amp it up. Amp it up. Be excited about it. Rejoice. Thank her. Thank her for agreeing to take part in your journey. Thank her for agreeing to do all of the things that needed to be done to support your assignment. And if you don't have a great relationship with your mother, then look at it from a different perspective. Even though she may not have fulfilled your perceived expectations, be excited that she did fulfill at least the first part of the assignment. And for those who have missed the opportunity by way of expressing this in the physical form because your mother has, transitioned and moved on, honey, prayer is still available. The spirit realm is very active, and you can find that closure that you need. You can find that peace that you need through prayer and meditation. So there is never a missed opportunity to make Mother's Day as exciting as possible for you at the level where you are. So have fun with this today. If you are a mother, rejoice because your children have chosen you. The fact that you're here on earth means that you had a mother or have a mother here in the physical form. Thank them for agreeing to be a part of your shenanigans. And if you are anticipating to be a mother, now is the time to open yourself up to understand that you want to set your life so that the requirements that need to be met, you meet them at the highest level. You meet them at the highest level. So I pray that this version, the sanity sessions are going to be a little bit different from here on because we're going to have questions. But today, I just felt God led me to want to talk about sanity from a mother's perspective, sanity from a Mother's Day perspective. So no matter where you are in the process, rejoice because you have been chosen. All right. Love you all. And I'll see y'all real soon. Have a good one.